Man, I ain't got no plan. I brought the records just to have them because I'm proud of these dang things. So the last time everybody saw us, we were in the middle of Atlanta. It was cold. We were talking a bunch of junk. It was raining. And we'd gone to a record store. One of the records that I got was this Metallica record. It's a reprint, so it's not like an original pressing. For my daughter, who was just getting into Metallica because we watched Stranger Things, and it is
the resurgence.
I hate to say it, but it was an epic scene with Eddie playing the guitar.
It is an epic scene.
I saw it again for the second time watching it with the girls, and she was just like over the moon. So I got Master of Puppets and had a good time listening to that one there. And then behind it is another record. You'll see a video that was posted several months ago because we're super prolific, folks.
So we just need to introduce ourselves.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because we've never even talked about what we're doing or
this is what we
who we
know.
are.
We don't know what we're doing. Do you know what we're doing? Please tell me what we're doing.
So, my name's Tim.
My name's Aaron.
Hector Jimenez.
Nice to meet you, Hector.
Thank you.
Where did Freddie go? Seriously, no.
My name is Freddie.
So, this is actually the second time me and Aaron have had a YouTube channel, but or at least we were on a YouTube channel before. This is now our YouTube channel, and it's just here to entertain. We're three old dudes, the three amigos, and we've been friends for a long time. Worked together, hung out together for years. So we thought we would do this, and just because every time we do, people are like, y'all are funny and you talk about cool stuff. So,
that's a lot of pressure.
you know, put it on YouTube. So. But yeah, so records. So I do not have the resurgence of records. I still prefer CDs or MP3s. I'm sorry to say.
No cassettes?
Does anybody still prefer?
I still have super audio CDs.
Yeah, and I think I've got one
And-
somewhere.
And I have a Blu-ray player
It's a
that
Linkin
plays
Park
them.
one.
I'm an 8-track.
It is a Linkin Park one because we both got the same one.
Yeah,
We worked
that one was-
at the
Yes.
big blue place many moons ago.
It was like okay purchase or
Yeah. So,
good procurement. I don't know.
well, the problem is I don't understand why they didn't continue that. So I run 5.1. I don't have a 7.1 system. I run a 5.1, but I do run Klipsch and SVS 12-inch sub in my system, and I do love the super audio sound in my system because you get that full surround sound experience.
And it's distinct. It's crisp. It's clean.
But they didn't continue the format, and there's really not a format out there that they've even tried to imitate. I don't understand.
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they would much rather you have to pay a subscription and stream something than own a physical copy of it. There's just a big war against people owning everything, which I think is a lot of the reason why the resurgence of analog, whether it's tape or record, is coming back in. Because, corporations can't just reach in and edit the song on your record. They can't decide that lyric is problematic. It might actually be problematic, but they can't just decide that and change it on you or make it unavailable because now it's offensive.
So, but anyways, I really do miss the super audio CD experience on my system. I don't like just the stereo setup. I would love to be able to stream it. And I actually pay for Amazon Music. I'm one of the few people I think that...
And Amazon Music is one of the few places that actually will deliver a Dolby something kind of sound. It's it's not 7.1, but it does a little better with the surround. The thing I don't like about that is it tries to immerse you in the audio, and it's a little fuzzy about what that actually means, putting you in the center of the music kind of stuff.
Well, the Linkin Park Super Audio CD...
Well, that's different.
It did a great job. Like, they made that specifically.
Oh, they paid somebody a ton of money to edit that, to mix that.
But the thing is I would buy, like, certain soundtracks and CDs and things. I would buy those if they would do a version of that. So I totally would. I don't know if anybody else would.
That's probably the problem. Is they're not going to make it just for YouTube.
Well,
well, if they knew, you're kind of a big deal. If they knew you like we knew, they would definitely.
I am not a big.
They would get that score to Shawshank Redemption put together for you.
I'm a different kind of big. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a big fan of the Stoic theme from the Shawshank Redemption movie. It's just got a great sound to it. Freddie, you've been curiously silent throughout all of this.
Oh,
Do you just listen to live music performed for you in your own home?
Yes, I acquire bands sometimes at gunpoint and just make them perform for me. Some of my favorite songs. So
What do you do with a master?
some are buried in my yard.
Okay.
Local bands.
Yeah, so like, do you just keep digging the hole deeper, or do you have?
Well, no, he
Like
put them under the pool.
Yeah.
He's got the pool.
Yeah.
That's
They're
actually a
really
pretty good cover because of the chlorine and everything else that's going on.
Well, it's
such
salt,
a pain. You'd have,
salt chlorine nowadays.
you'd have to drain
Not
it,
as bad.
and then you'd have to jackhammer through the ground to
Well,
even get to
there's
the
a-
corpses.
There's an underground school bus buried there, so it's.
Wow. You know, that's about as far as I can follow you. That just sounds like a horrible thing that just happened there.
I don't have quite the stereo setup that Tim does. Mine's pretty
Well, it's
pretty janky compared
Yeah,
to yours.
but I mean, I think for vinyl, it's 2 speakers and a turntable.
and you don't
Yeah.
really want to go. Okay, so if you want to expand a vinyl setup, like once you've got a good turntable, once you've got a decent set of monitors going on, that's when you start getting into the fun world of like preamps, and then you start using
Yeah.
EQ with vacuum tubes. And I haven't gone.
No,
I've been spending all of my extra money on this camera gear. So
Yeah, and I'm unfortunately addicted to watches. So, I will say, as a person that does also have a record player, and unfortunately bought several $100s worth of records the day that you bought that one.
this
for
is
myself
a third
and
of a
my
much larger
yeah.
purchase. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, we remember myself and my child after we left you guys went to another record store and bought several $100s there. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
not a great day financially, but I do miss the days of component systems, right? Where
Yeah.
you would have, your EQ. Yeah, I mean, I mention this to my aunt all the time, but she actually still has it. She told me to come get it whenever I want. Speakers are obviously dry rotted now because it's from she actually bought it in Japan in the 80s.
Paper tones?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
80s. The record player on it doesn't work anymore, but it was actually like a CD player. You ejected it.
Oh, yeah.
Came out, you set it in.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen
All
that.
Sony,
I've seen
all
a few of
Sony
those.
components that she bought in Japan when her and her husband were stationed in the early.
Well, if
80s.
in Japan, Sony was everything.
Well, yeah, and it was you were getting premium. I mean, she's told me in today's times it would have been $10,000 worth of equipment, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But
With the big chorus speakers?
oh yeah, I mean it was this tall. It's set in her living room.
Well, my father
It was
still
awesome.
has his component,
Yeah.
which is Yamaha from the 70s.
Yeah.
And they still sound fantastic. And he still listens to records. He prefers vinyl. I did exist in the days of the vinyl when my first record was Michael Jackson's Beat It.
Oh, that's a great question. So that's the first record you remember
That's the first record.
owning. What's the first record you remember hearing? I guess if you heard music at all. it was
Oh, the
probably
first record I ever heard
In person,
was
probably.
Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
So, yeah. So,
Dang, I don't even know.
All right, I'll go next while you're thinking. For me, and this one stuck with me, I was just listening to this song last week because the advent of AI was the Alan Parsons project, Eye in the Sky is the first song I remember hearing off of a vinyl. 'Cause
Dang, you're young.
my dad had a really cool... I am a bit, yeah, so I'm probably the baby in this room, but...
Probably is not the you are.
you are, for sure.
Well, I'll take it. I've always, and this is the fun thing, like in previous iterations of my presence on the internet, I've always felt like I was somewhere in between Generation X and then the millennial generation because I was in that crossover. I clearly remember a time when there was no computer, there was no,
Early 90s for you.
phones were physical, they had rotary dials, and I learned all of that kind of stuff. Willie Nelson was on the radio, all that, he still is, but he was on the radio like... as a young man.
In addition to records, I remember the 8-track days.
My first car had an 8-track player. Proud Mary, I think, was the first hit.
Kenny Rogers, The Gambler.
Good choice. Great movie.
Oak Ridge Boys.
Staples
Oak Ridge Boys.
when I worked at the Pizza Inn, those were staples on the jukebox.
Yes, absolutely.
Turn the page.
Alabama.
Oh my gosh.
Alabama, all of them.
Kansas.
No,
Carry on my wayward. All the states were represented.
they were.
Later on, you had Japan.
No Boston.
Man, not if I could help it.
No, before I listened to Boston was in the 80s, the mid 80s too. It was probably 85.
Now that I think about it, probably first record actually probably would have been my grandfather. We had a huge record player system. You remember when they used to have the giant consoles that were I don't know, probably.
Oh, there were wood grain, and there were wood
the
grain.
speakers were built in. You couldn't see
Yes,
them, and you
yes.
They still make that stuff. by the way.
I'm sure they
They're
do.
$40,000.
Yeah, and he had one, and he would always play like swing music and stuff like that.
Oh, awesome.
Yes,
Big
my
band
grandparents.
stuff like that.
Big
when I was a
band,
kid,
yeah.
yeah.
And those things were. I remember having to move that thing.
Well, and I remember
Nobody stole those.
Here's the
You
thing.
couldn't.
It was
It was
and
impossible.
I'm sure everyone dealt with this. It was the same thing with TVs too, right? Big console TVs, and then when it broke, you'd stick your new TV on top of it.
That's right. It was and you hang up.
We actually paid the TV repairman. You know, they come and took the back off.
They did for a
YouTube,
while.
and
They did for a
everything,
while because back then you'd buy your Sears contract that would cover everything right in your house, right? That's how everything.
And
used
then
to
the
be.
Sears guy would come by.
Yeah.
Well,
Sears
what was
guy
your
would
brand
come fix
TV?
it.
Ours was a Zenith.
Ours was a Magnavox, Philips Magnavox. When they were still together. When they were still together.
Yeah.
I remember going to the Philips Magnavox, the last big console TV my grandfather bought, going with him to buy it.
It was an event.
Yeah, oh yeah,
It was an event back then.
I can't remember if it was Philips. I'm sorry, if it was Magnavox or Zenith. I always loved the name Zenith though for TV. So I know I've.
It was that weird, that lightning bolt Z with the Enith on the back.
Awesome. Yeah, that and like the Z, the old Nissans.
Yes.
Anywhere you saw it. Now Z isn't as popular when you see it on the. Anyway,
well, they make some high-end watches from Zenith.
do they
That's a
really?
whole other thing. I don't want to get into that.
And we need to
It's actually a Swiss brand.
We need to sit down and do like an episode on watches. Now, I don't
Yes.
think we need to show your watches. I don't think you need to show the world what you got unless you just want to.
I don't. I mean, I have 30-something watches right now, and I'm building 3. So,
But Caleb's in pocket watches.
oh, that's cool.
Before you leave, you'll have to go see his pocket watch collection.
That's very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Our house got robbed when I was a kid, and they stole our smaller TV. And my dad was like, "Oh hell no!" So he went out and got the biggest console. Now he never talked like that. That's not the language he uses. But I'll probably get in trouble for
Don't
saying
protect
that.
him.
At my
Protect
age,
him.
I have to because I love the man. But he was like determined that nobody was going to steal our next TV. So I remember him and me having to carry that thing from the truck to the house, and I wasn't that big, but that thing weighed a metric ton.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do. Ours had wheels.
Well, that's back when
Mine
they
did not.
actually used real wood and stuff. So.
Oh, yeah. It was
And
all
there's
real
big
wood.
magnets on that one speaker carrying all
yeah.
that load. Now, let's face it, those speakers on the console TVs, they were garbage.
But they,
Well,
but they weren't for the
we
time,
didn't
right?
know.
Exactly. Like there was no
We didn't
surround
know.
sound. Like surround sound was turning that thing up loud.
I'm just saying it had like a frequency range of like 10 hertz. I mean, you weren't going to get a lot of
Sure.
Yeah.
We just didn't know better, right? I mean, it was either that or the movie theater.
That's true.
well, you didn't see the 5.1 in home really take off until about the early 90s.
Yeah, and then even
and
then
it was always, and everybody remembers it was the Bose. And the people that worked in the industry like us, we were like, it's really not that great, it's Bose, but I mean, for what they are.
Paul Harvey had me convinced that Bose Wave, whatever acoustic
the wave acoustic
was
radio.
like the best thing of all time.
He never.
Oh, I forgot about those.
He never fished me. He tried.
He never told the rest of the story, so I have a problem with that. That was his thing, and he didn't tell you the whole truth then.
No.
So since we're talking TV evolution, so then I would say then it went into projection TVs.
Oh my gosh! Front projection.
yes.
The first front projection, like a sleigh.
The first time I watched the original Poltergeist was on a front projection TV.
Please tell me it was color aligned.
Oh, it was. Oh, yeah.
Remember, you couldn't even run by those.
It was freaky.
Because
It was the tree that got me though. The tree, the kid that scared.
yeah.
I was in 4th grade. I will never forget. I was in 4th grade, Halloween, watching Poltergeist on that front projection, and when the tree tries to eat the kid, that gave me nightmares for like a month.
The closet.
So,
the closet.
F- FYI,
not even that. It was the tree.
FYI for the youngins that we're not talking the remake from 2010s. We're talking the original Steven Spielberg.
Oh, they remade that?
Yeah, with
And I've watched the remakes.
I forgot the name of it.
That's almost as egregious as them remaking The Crow.
Okay, well, here we go with this shit.
I mean,
Excuse my language.
we don't need.
I agree that we don't need it. It is a perfect film,
done.
but
Look,
but
I love trailers. I love trailers are awesome because the Crow trailer even sucks.
Is it a? But I guess my question is, if it's a true remake, then yes, I won't like it. if it's some type of different variation.
Okay, I will give you that. I will give you that. If it's
I
a
will
whole
say
different soul
the
person
TV show,
story.
yeah, the TV show,
Then we're gonna end up with another Highlander, just like the
Well,
Highlander TV show.
the TV show was
We don't
good.
need that many Highlanders.
The TV show was good. It just wasn't. It was like a sci-fi thing where it didn't have a big budget, kind of like Stargate was in the beginning,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It was that type of thing, and I think that's why it failed. I could be
Stargate
wrong.
was perfect.
Yeah, you would say that.
It was almost as good as that.
And see, I'm going to argue because I like the movie
Oh,
better than the TV show, but you guys.
We're crossing way too many topics.
Yes,
here.
we are.
We gotta stop.
No. That's what this. That's what guys.
This
I'm
is a
sorry.
free for all.
It
This is
really
the.
is a
This is the
free-for-all.
episode salad.
This is our normal conversations.
That's it. That's fine. There's so many like. There's so
And
many
we will
people-
get our act together. We will eventually get our act together and choose topics and stuff. But they're true. This is our our official introduction into the channel. And
Well, and to be perfectly frank, it's kind of like our first time really doing this in front of the camera, other than that brief thing we did in front of the truck.
yes,
So we're kind of figuring it out. But I don't hate this. I think this is kind of
We're
fun.
just having fun.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
But
And that's what this is all about, I think. I mean, we're here to have fun and hopefully give you guys something that is enjoyable as well, right? This is not. We're not doing it.
yeah,
for
I
likes or
mean,
anything.
you can see I actually did this room specifically for
Yes.
this channel.
We teased that in the
Yeah.
last video, so let's talk a little bit.
Is,
show us around, Tim.
This is my room. Just it's nothing fancy. It's just a few shelves with some collectible toys, some modern, some vintage. I definitely have to get another shelf because I haven't even touched my Star Trek figurines yet. But yeah, just a few
Star Trek.
little things. Star Trek's
I'm
the
just
best.
kidding.
It's the
Did you
best.
say Star Trek?
Tracks.
Star Wars and Star Trek? That's my thing, of course. Big
Yeah,
surprise.
wait till you see
right?
his poster.
And you know what this is, right? Do either of you know what that is?
It looks like Gurr, but I know I'm wrong. He looks super familiar.
Coochie Copy.
Coochie Copy.
It's off of Bob's Burgers. The girl with the rabbit ears.
Yes, he got stuck in the wall.
And that is Coochie Copy. So yes, I got that at a Dragon Con here in Atlanta. That happens every Labor Day that we love.
You guys are going to love where I'm putting this camera back. What I'm using as my camera stand is this wonderful Miss Pac-Man.
And it's, and you can tell from the size, it's not the original Miss Pac-Man. I would not mind having a vintage. I had the opportunity to get a vintage one, but getting a vintage one, what's the problem with getting vintage ones is if they haven't done it, all of those had tubes for displays and they're all burning in.
Whoa,
So
you
people
can't
are
just
having
put right
to-
on TV.
We just went right back to TVs.
So people are having to take the tubes out and put LCDs in and then calibrate. I don't want to do all that, so I got the Repro, smaller ones, the 1-Up, the arcade 1-Up. It's just as good, has all the sounds.
Well, this
So-
album is a repro. I mean,
Yeah,
this is not an
that's
original
fine.
pressing, and I'm here to tell you So before we get off the top, I know we jump, but verdict on the Metallica album. Now, I'm not an old school Metallica fan. I've come to them over the years. They were a big deal when I was a kid.
yeah.
This is actually a really good one. I'm sure they built it from a 24-bit, digital recording. That's what they typically require when they go to the press. But it's a good thick record, so it's not one of the cheap ones. They actually use the higher weight vinyl puck to produce this. And from my experience, I listened to side A today, start to finish, no skipping. The other magic of this, but it was.
He did it in his car.
It was very crisp. I did it while I was jogging, so I like to listen to my vinyl while I'm running. Yeah, it's got this backpack rig with a gimbal on it. It's amazing. But it was very crisp, very clean, and I love the fact, especially with a lot of the vinyl, the sound mix isn't overcompressed. It's got a lot of good dynamics. It sounds excellent. So I would say if you're not ready to go try to find an original pressing of a very popular album, you probably can't go wrong getting.
If I ever go vinyl, I will only do it if I have a true vacuum tube amp to go with it.
Well, that's what we were talking about,
Yes,
right?
so
That's what the original
that's the only
conversation
one I
was.
would do. So.
I've been looking at a Marantz. It's ungodly, but it's got a tube for each band.
even
right?
the
It's like-
little Marantzas
I'm
are
looking.
like,
I'm only looking at a 3-band one, but if you guys watched, oh my gosh, Bosch on Amazon, one of the things, and a lot of this you do it for the experience, you do it for the scene, the mood. There were scenes where he had a particularly difficult case, and he's pacing around his apartment that none of us could ever afford, and especially for a police detective. But that's neither here nor there. But he had this amazing console set up with his turntable, and then he had the tube preamp off to the side, just gently glowing with some jazz albums.
Yes.
I do want to get to that too. I like you said, I just have two decent, they're not even decent.
Well, it
just two
really
speakers
does
connected to it, right?
And it really does depend because, they've done the studies, and I'm sure you know all about this. Between men and women, men tend to prefer more digital.
Mm-hmm. I actually don't know this breakdown.
And believe it or not, they have found that women prefer the softer tube amplifiers, like a traditional, that when they play them side by side, most women preferred that sound
like
range.
a blind test.
So even the difference between men and women, just in the way we hear frequencies and process them, it was really interesting to understand that. And it's not wrong. You can definitely hear the difference between a pure digital versus an actual vacuum tube. If you've never done it, go to a Magnolia, go to any halfway decent store, and you can actually hear them side by side. Any good store will have a demo set up so you can listen to it both ways. And see what you prefer.
Just remember to side eye your salesperson at a Magnolia. Just be aware they're trying to sell you something.
Well, and not just that.
They're not commissioned, but
they're also typically about 19 years old, and what they know is what they read on the box. So experience versus
you'll find at the big box store that we worked at, there was that guy with hair that was about as long as mine, right?
Yes.
And he was an absolute genius when it came to music and music recommendations.
Well, back then
there are people I would listen to.
Yes, sure. He definitely is one, because back then in the big box, that guy used to be the one to control your media section. Like,
Mark, I haven't forgot you.
Yeah, what you carried on the shelf, what equipment was carried to complement it. And
oh, you're right.
He was so good at that.
What they stocked was definitely skewed by that.
Yes, and people would come in looking for him.
I still remember reading notes back on the manager's bridge of here's your David Sylvian recommendation was on point.
Yeah,
Speaking of Japan.
He's the lead singer. I worked at another big box that was red way back in the day, and then it was commissioned.
You walked into the part that plugged in, right?
We had but we had professional, like a little salespeople. And
little town, little electronics town.
Yeah, it was.
That's what it's called.
And they carried even higher end than the
this is before
blue
Magnolia
version,
right?
Before Magnolia. Well, I would even say they carried higher quality.
You took me to a few stores where you had to know a guy and probably had Chinese food.
I did. Well, there's one in Birmingham, Alabama, which is near Greystone, which if anybody's from that area knows.
If you played for the NBA, you might live in Greystone.
Yeah, right. And there's an audio store there that just to buy a rack to hold your components was $14,000 because it had a certain kind of sand in it. It had certain kind of plastics and rubbers to absorb the vibrations a certain way.
We got so much stuff we could talk about. I'm excited for our little experiment.
It was made by trained children instead of just regular children.
Yeah, with very experienced children.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah, that's dark.
Yeah, we had one of those. We had one of those back home.
Yeah, and
back then, you had your where I grew up in South Carolina. We only had the one that you just referred to, the town.
Yes,
right. Yeah. We didn't have the other one until I was way into.
I think it's called Transistor Village. I don't know.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, where you live, that's where the very first one was.
It was great, and the only other thing we had was Sears and Montgomery Ward. Literally that. But
service merchandise.
Service merchandise. We did have a service.
Never heard anyone be like, "I swear by my Montgomery Ward terms."
Let me tell you though. But you also got to remember though, back then, they were geared more towards that. They had an electronics department, and the person in the electronics department knew what they were talking about. It was. That's what they did.
It was like an everything.
Yeah, just like when the home improvement stores launched, and you could go in there and you'd really find a plumber in the plumber section.
When's the last time you've experienced that?
It's been at least 15 years.
Now this is where the Padres and three Padres come in.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
I can't remember asking anybody, with the exception of my friend Dre at a Home Depot, help me with this, and they actually know what the heck they're talking about.
Well, now you go on YouTube and you look for experts.
You know what you want.
You look for the old guy that's done it a million times. That knows what he's talking
is that what we're supposed to be?
Well, but there's people with much more experience than us.
And it's a 3-minute video, and it takes you 30 minutes to watch it because you're stopping and doing.
Yeah, you're stopping.
That's
Turn the wrench 3 times.
Guys,
for another
promise
4
me
minutes.
now, if we ever do a tutorial video, we will shoot to make it 1 to 3 minutes. We'll get right to the point, and you won't let me talk at all.
Well, no, what you have to
tied up in the corner.
Yeah.
what we have to do is do a 2-minute part, stop and do a little intermission. It's got the little popcorn guy dancing, and then we pick it up to the next step so they can just play instead of having to pause.
I just can't stand it when I log in to like figure out how to fix some issue with my car or something, and then I got to sit through 5 minutes of like, so my car will go today and it drives like a mouse, and then I'm just like, oh my god, can you please just tell me how to change this tire? I don't know. I know how to change a tire, but I'm just trying to use.
You don't, but you also don't have a good track record with cars.
No, I'm not your car guy. I am not your car guy.
This is the guy who decided that after his car sat under a tree for about 3 years, it was an old car, he had other cars, and he opened it and saw that there was some ants inside the car, so he decided he was going to bug bomb his car. And actually opened the door, pulled that pin, threw it in, shut that door, and
Fire in the hole.
all you heard was woof, and the door is actually like... yeah.
I'm pretty sure I still have breathing problems.
I'm pretty sure you do.
Because, I mean, it aired out before I got in the car, but that car would never ride again.
No, it's probably got Agent Orange poison or something.
Yeah, it probably.
Oh, man, that was the best story, though. That was the best thing ever.
That's just the closest we're going to leave.
That was great. But that's why we have the experience. We've done enough stupid things.
Going into this, Tim, I knew there were going to be no holds barred.
I mean, there's so many car stories. there is.
We'll save some for next time.
Yeah, we will. We'll save some for next time.
It's hard. We'll hold it back.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, so before we call it,
yep.
I'm going to turn the page, and then we're going to move on. I did want to bring up the fact...
just also, not their best album. Just
what do you think?
Ride the Lightning is my favorite
You're not
Metallica
going to
album.
hurt any feelings with that.
There are no good Metallica albums after Injustice for All.
You are really a big fan here.
To the contrary of my child, who's a huge Metallica fan.
Well, probably Black Album, right?
She likes the Black Album. That's not.
It's just
not
a
for
different.
Me.
I mean, everybody likes Black Album.
I don't. Here's where I get controversial. I actually like Saint Anger, and nobody likes Saint Anger. So
okay, yeah, right. So we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this Dune record. I've got a little bit of content up on the Dune record, but I just thought I'd have it here in person so the gentleman could see it. I am expecting Dune Part 2 on vinyl to show up for the next couple of days, hopefully. I was very, very critical of the score, or at least the way it was mixed in the first movie. But I just want to make it clear. I actually think this is an amazing score. It's just the way that it was so loud in the streaming version, and come to find out, he didn't even have time to remix that for a TV. So he was basically playing the IMAX,
which is crazy,
through the TV, which basically was why I was like, this is a war crime. Not to use that word too loosely right now, but it was just like, boom, it was in your face. So yeah, anyway.
That was one of the things I enjoyed at the theater in the first one. The second one wasn't as harsh. But,
no, it wasn't. You could tell they got that note and they toned it back.
It was almost like it was a sandstorm.
Almost.
Oh, wow.
Which is track D3. Sorry, for you guys that can't see, I can see all the tracks on the back.
Yeah, funny thing about LPs, they have things on both sides. So,
and some of them come with the words to the songs, but this one wouldn't. Because
this is an excellent picture of Paul while he was
screaming,
while he was straight tripping. Because right now in the movie, he is like singing sounds. Right. So,
is this from the David Lynch movie?
I wish. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Wow.
Because first of all, the David Lynch movie soundtrack is amazing with Toto and Brian Eno. I love that score. It's not remotely the same as what this guy did. Sure. But one thing I will say is that in part 2, I'm looking forward to hearing it because I heard several spots when we watched the movie. We all went and watched it together. There's a little bit of that up too.
Both. We saw both together.
We did, just not at the same time. That would have been confusing.
Yes, it could have been.
But it felt like they paid a lot of homage to not only the Lynch movie, like with little passages that sounded very similar,
yes, for sure,
but also the Sci-Fi Channel's production. There were several segments that sounded reminiscent of the soundtrack to that. Which, while we're telling stories that don't embarrass us, but that are personal. I actually played Trish picked some Dune for our wedding, so there was some music.
Yes.
The TV series I didn't know you yet.
I know, that's why I said all, because I didn't know that. So
If I showed up with like a convertible, looking all like Joe Biden, be like, get in, we're gonna go get married.
I'm about to say it could happen, because I could discover time travel at some point and then come back and be at your wedding, and then
you would show up.
But as a stranger, like
there's many funny stories about the wedding too. So.
I'd be like one of the guys from Fringe, if you ever watched that TV show, The Watchers.
Maybe that's what we should do. Any old videos that Freddie wasn't in, we'll just kind of paste him in the bag, just like.
Yeah, like the video that I recently unearthed of when we all went to Rock City.
What's that Freddie in the background somewhere?
Where we were all like terrified by the Sousa rocks of Rock City that do nothing but play John Philip Sousa music.
That they still do. And they still do.
I forgot, back to Dune though, he also, not in the soundtrack, but if you remember the first trailer for the first part, he actually paid homage to the Dune movie that didn't get made, and he used Pink Floyd in it because they were supposed to be the soundtrack for.
Yes.
I actually didn't know his name. Jodorowsky. I probably butchered that.
I didn't want to.
That's a whole nother topic.
No, but not just going to them.
Yeah,
they paid
weirdness,
I think Denny paid homage to that by throwing that in there, because that was that man's vision to have them do the entire soundtrack.
Well, I kind of
similar to Prince doing.
I do. I kind of wish that had gotten made.
I know, and it was kind of.
It would have been crazy, but I'd have loved it.
Once again, I really wanted Denis to just like have a fever dream and for this to explode and be another brilliant train wreck of a movie, and he's crushing it so far. There are some quibbles. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely some choices he's made in the last movie where I'm like, okay, we'll see where that goes.
But you think they might make sense?
I think they will end up making sense. I don't know if I would still have made the same choice, but that's his call. He's doing a good job so far. He can do a couple of things like have two for Hawat, like carry around a little clear umbrella
and not even be mentioned in the second movie.
Platform.
We need more cowbell.
I mean,
and also, I'm not going to say anything negative about Christopher Walken's performance because I'm still terrified of that man. But I felt like he could have done a little more.
Well,
I liked it though, but it was. I agree, right? And
not really spoilers, but we're talking about.
No, I think the Emperor does have a bigger presence than shown in Dune Part 2. But I wonder if maybe that's because if you let Christopher Walken get too involved, then you just get Christopher Walken and not the Emperor.
That's a very good.
Which means there's probably some interesting like stuff left on the cutting room floor.
Because the Emperor's not supposed to sound like he's from New York, right?
This is or gangster from New York. Yeah,
well, House Carino, I would imagine, in the mind of the writer whose name is eluding me. Help me, save me from myself. I'm being old. Herbert. Thank you.
Herbert.
I know I'm the one who's like purports to love Dune, and I can't remember Frank Herbert's name. Woo! That's a fun day. But Carino, it's an Italian sounding name, so it wouldn't surprise me if he.
A little Sicilian in
it's
there
a little
somewhere.
weird that he spoke English. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
King of New York to Emperor of the Universe. Hey.
Of the known universe.
The known universe. So
that is an important distinction.
Yes.
There's a very important distinction there.
Not spoil anything.
I have ordered the 4K Blu-ray.
I've got the first one, and I'm ordered.
I don't have.
The second
I'm sorry. I have the first one on 4K.
Yeah.
I've ordered the second one. I'm looking forward to giving it a second watch.
I liked it better the second time I watched it. I'm being honest.
Oh, you've already seen it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because
we saw it twice because he was babysitting the first time he couldn't go. No, I agree with you. I saw more little things. I was able to spend more time and pay attention
a little more
rather than follow the story. So and I probably will when I watch it the third time.
See more. Yeah. I think that's the point. That's the point of the movie.
I won't probably buy it on 4K like you guys. I'll watch it on Max because I'm lazy and cheap. Sorry.
We need everybody in this van. We do.
Yeah. No, I have a Blu-ray player. I have. Probably
maybe we'll do that.
Way too many Zack Snyder movies for my Blu-ray player. Sorry.
Maybe we will. If this channel does well, I'll make a commitment now in the very first episode. I'll be the one to buy the 78 cargo van with the shag carpet and the wood panel walls with the 8-track player.
I had an 81.
Dude, that way, anytime we drive down to like MomoCon or DragonCon or somewhere, we can all show up in the big. There won't be like about 3 middle-aged men showing up in a big panel van.
You haven't even watched Fanboys yet, have you?
Yes,
Oh,
I have one.
you haven't.
No, I'm the one who doesn't do things.
It's actually
Which
on
is
Amazon.
hilarious.
It's the hipster in me. You tell me
It's on Amazon.
It's actually pretty
You tell me
hilarious.
It's a good.
The more
it's a
you
good
talk
solid
about
movie.
it,
Yeah.
And the van is hilarious.
The van is
the Millennium
very,
Falcon.
very funny. Yeah,
It's
it
the
is.
Millennium Falcon.
Especially in the end.
Yeah.
Dude, I always thought they were like spaceships, like with the CB radio in the front.
I mean,
guys, we're gonna keep doing this forever. So
yeah.
we probably
that's what we'll wrap it up first, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah,
We'll change
I'll
it
edit it for 3 or 4 months, and then you'll see it.
Yeah.
Tim, this is Aaron. It's Fred.
That's right. Don't forget it. No one's gonna hit stop.
There's dogs running.